have very little hot issue to discuss about Islamic movement, which is also actually to say because I also work with Islamic movement, but I work on the movement sector of Islamic movement. So I think this is very interesting topic to discuss, and I hope you are not bored here because you see me every week. I hope everyone is getting familiar with my face. I think you could see recognized, weekly Wednesday product. This is a very, wonderful, to my experience, wonderful session that we have each week because this is also how by the collaboration between CRCS and ICRS. And I hope you are all familiar with this two, two institutions. So if you are not familiar with this, please start to join our Instagram and our YouTube and try to follow our daily news because we give news every day. So, okay, today, this is very wonderful occasion because we have Chris Chaplin here. Chris is this young researcher who is now working on the Salafi movement, on research on the Salafi movement. So today, we will discuss more about the research that he has done a few years ago, but I think, still following the issue now. So please welcome Chris Chaplin.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. It's quite an honor actually to be able to present this. And really, this is a work in progress. So if you have comments, criticisms, questions, I do invite you to ask them again. Ultimately, kind of the strength of this work relies on feedback, especially from a group like yourselves here. So today, multiple screens. I wanted to talk about my research in Makassar with one Islamic organization called Waqf Al-Islamiyya there, specifically around the period of 2016 and the way that the modalities through which Waqf Al-Islamiyya, being one of many organizations, has been able to kind of talk about certain social political issues within the public sphere and what this means in the way that people kind of see citizenship, politics, and political competition. But I really want to kind of start with a brief kind of anecdotal description from my field research from back in 2016. And I want to start here one kind of late Saturday night in October, November that year, when I accompanied one of my kind of doctors at the time, who will call Ahmed, to a dinner he had arranged at a local mosque in the city of Makassar, close to the port. And the dinner was for parents of children that he was teaching at the mosque. Now, Ahmed himself originated in nearby Goa, and at the time he was in his late 20s and a nominal member of Waqf Al-Islamiyya, which was Makassar's one of Makassar's most prominent Islamic groups. And now, by his own account, he wasn't a local leader in Waqf Al-Islamiyya, and he wasn't one of their most active members. In fact, when you spoke to him, he kind of stressed that his main concern came with kind of raising a young family more than kind of being a religious activist in the public sphere and so forth. Yet, he had become involved in Waqf Al-Islamiyya during his studies at the local university, and upon graduating, he shifted to gradually working in a local Islamic bookstore affiliated to Waqf Al-Islamiyya. Now, I've come to know him because we both attended the same drama or Islamic lecture every Saturday evening in Makassar's bustling kind of business. Now, like me, he was a regular here and would often sit together, hang out afterwards, drink the coffee or tea more likely, and discuss the contents of what was being discussed. However, the Saturday in question that I'm referring to here was a bit different because Ahmed had organized a dinner for the parents of young children with the mosque that he taught. And he wanted to invite me along. So after about 30 minutes of kind of winding our way through Makassar's streets, which seemed a very clean, but somewhat small mosque complex located in what was perhaps more of a working class area of the city. And this isn't where Ahmed himself lived. He resided on the other side of town. But he had been teaching children at the mosque for about a year. And so it comes to know both the children and their parents. Now, as we prepared the dinner of kind of local fish with rice, capsule, and a array of sambal, depending on speaking Makassar, food is fantastic. We chatted to parents while the children kind of played outside. Now, one such parent was Lukman. He was a laborer in the city before, and he played his thanks to Ahmed, both for the dinner, but more importantly for the class that he provided for his son. Now, as he noted, they kept his son out of trouble on the streets, but they also provided him with a role model. That Ahmed was university educated and an individual that he saw as good moral standards. Moreover, kind of while Lukman noted that he didn't necessarily belong to White House Amir and didn't necessarily agree with some of their interpretations of Islam, he did compliment Ahmed and his colleagues in White House Amir for being, quote unquote, kind of being there. They're coming to the community's aid when they needed help, such as the year beforehand when there was a flood. Now, I wish to return to this story a bit later on when I'm familiar. But what kind of strikes me here about this is that it offers a kind of window into kind of how Islamic activists like us engage with local communities at a grassroots level. And in fact, when we talk about kind of Islamic organizations in Indonesia, or even the idea of majoritarian politics of today, too often our focus is always at the elite level, the leaders, and the kind of negotiations and kind of the benefits that are kind of haggled out within kind of like government office. And in this kind of story, communities are definitely captivated. So what I'd argue here, and what this highlights, is kind of the local dynamics that are going on. And it shifts our analytical gaze onto kind of these spatial kind of dynamics, the interpretive and very lively see within activism, and how these ideas kind of take hold. In these parents and communities that Ahmed was involved with are not blank slates. They have their own opinions, histories, life stories, and these need to be accounted for in any such story that we talk about. When we talk about kind of political transformation and political opinions. And it's an ability to remain sensitive to these that allows individuals like Ahmed to be successful in their engagement. So now, if we kind of zoom out a bit, that's one kind of story. We can see that actually this is arguably occurring in kind of mosques throughout the country. Now, if we look at White House Amir itself, they have over 120 branches. I made this map in 2017, there's arguably a lot more here. And then within each one of these cities, such as Makassar, you can see a range of different mosques that these activists such as Ahmed are involved with and are activists, creating this kind of network of communication through which they're able to kind of react when certain communities need assistance, but also to be able to talk about issues, about social issues and about politics with the. So with that in mind, the kind of questions that I want to kind of address and attempt to answer today are firstly, how has White House Amir itself, particularly in Makassar, kind of grown? And what are the spatial and political kind of ramifications that we see within this? Now, secondly, arguably more broadly, what can this tell us about the spread of these religions being huge social activities within Indonesia and the tactics deployed by activists in all Muslim majority areas? So that's what I want to address today. And before I start, I think it's important to actually kind of first account for what I mean when I talk about majoritarianism. Now, we all have this general kind of vague idea of what majoritarianism is. The idea that a certain kind of majority needs to have certain political rights above certain minorities, and then they need to be beyond kind of somewhat differentiated if we talk about citizenship. Now, it's not necessarily kind of fixed or institutionalized. In fact, when we talk about majoritarianism within the broader literature, we find a variety of different kind of opinions behind it. For example, when we talk about majoritarianism in Malaysia, we do have predominantly kind of linked political parties. Now, if we talk about similarly in Hindu majoritarianism within India, again, it has this kind of party. And this is perhaps why Indonesia is a case study, because yes, there are certain political parties that might be more defined to support majoritarian kind of doctrines, but it is not a political ideology promoted by one specific party at one point. In fact, this is where civil society organizations or Islamic organizations like Waqf al-Islamiyya are incredibly important to form a bridges between what we see in the local kind of grassroots level and the kind of national kind of level where we see kind of politics being played out. And I'd argue as well, when we talk about kind of majoritarianism, it's quite easy because of the Islamic affiliation, the fact that groups like Waqf al-Islamiyya who themselves kind of adhere to some more Islamic kind of principles, to see this as kind of like perhaps a more kind of radical along the extremity. But I would actually argue that what you actually see on the ground is a mixture of nationalist and religious. In fact, it's using very kind of Indonesian political terminology when it talks about the rights of Muslim minorities. But this is one of the reasons that I believe the social movement approach is so important. It lets us kind of go beyond just a top-down political kind of mantra that we often see when we talk about these aspects, but also kind of like look at the dynamics and the contextual considerations that are happening on the ground. Because when we talk about these ideas, this isn't top down necessarily, or solely top down. Individuals on the ground themselves reflect that. And there are kind of best practices around it. There's modification in the way to talk about that. And I think it's important to kind of look at that. And also kind of look at the spaces in which these ideas terminate. So with that in mind, I want to turn to Waqf al-Islamiyya and City of Makassar. Now, I've spoken to some people in the audience already who are very familiar with the city, so I won't talk about this too long. So for those that know it, it's Indonesia's largest city. It's an industrial hub for the east part of the country, and it has a very rich Islamic history, both in the financial colonial sense, we think about Sheikh Yusuf, for example, I think in Dutch, but also in the kind of more modern sense in terms of not only Darul Islam, but also kind of like prominent figures from Muhammadiyya that have arisen out of that city itself. For this reason, several individuals that I spoke to on the ground have always called 50,000 miles. And they're probably not far off. Although I haven't. Now, one of the organizations that emerged within Makassar, and that's arguably one of the most prominent Islamic organizations at the moment, is Waqf al-Islamiyya, who are focused on today's presentation. Now, they emerged in the 1980s and happened within the university, mainly from students that were affiliated to Muhammadiyya and one of the local Muhammadiyya preachers, Faisal Muslim. Now, during the 1980s, when most organizations had to adopt Pancasila as the principal kind of primary kind of asas tunggal, principal kind of foundation policy, there was a lot of contention in Muhammadiyya. Eventually, they did adopt it, but not without controversy. And what this meant on the ground in Makassar is we saw certain individuals actually detach themselves from Muhammadiyya and form their own organization. Now, they started off as a very small foundation, teaching high school students and university students about Islam, and they were fairly eclectic in where they kind of got their doctrine from. In fact, because you saw the kind of the creation of more kind of family, the brotherhood movement at the time, and in the circles, they borrowed a lot of references from that. However, by the 1990s, the leaders of Waqf al-Islamiyya received scholarships to study in Saudi Arabia, and at this point, we saw a kind of a tradition into a more, I'd say, politically and socially aware and organized version of Salafi. The principles they learned from the Islamic University, and brought them back to Makassar. And they did this through a focus on knowledge, charity propagation, and religious learning. I think that religious learning is key, because this is where they start to create their own schools, including the SIVA, the School of Islam and Arab, their own tertiary education institute. And through this as well, they expanded out approximately 2002 and have over 120 branches across the country. For this reason, our institution is the largest Salafi-inspired Islamic organization in this country. Now, when we talk about the development of Waqf al-Islamiyya as well, in terms of the social political kind of attitudes, I'd say that we can see three phases in their development. Now, firstly, from 1998, 1998, we saw that there was a policy of isolation. Unsurprisingly, it was during the water, and they were outwardly focused on kind of propagating within education circles, and very much keeping themselves kind of under the radar. Now, from the 1998 to the early 2000s, we saw a change here, especially lately. So there's familiar with the history of the South, the way the show moves to kind of bring Sharia law into kind of public realm. And what Tanzania were not the forefront of this, but they definitely supported it. So you saw kind of growing support from Islamic parties, general mistrust with certain kind of state apparatus at the time as well. There was a certain element of kind of anti-democracy at this point. But by 2002 to 2004, this definitely shifted. You saw them kind of start to kind of create memorandums of understanding with state bodies, assisting them in kind of providing social welfare. You saw links with political figures such as Salah, who originated from the area, which in turn opened up access to more internal funding. We also saw some ideological shift. They became pro-NKO, pro-Indonesian, very much pro-Pancasila, and they adopted what they learned from what a lot of organizations term as Wasatiyah. Now they define it perhaps differently, right? And that's still allowed. But this became a core principle of the way that they kind of define themselves. Now, when we think about the political significance of this shift, I just want to give a couple of examples here. They were very involved in that work. Actually, we have here. They sit on the MOE, the National Council. They're very active in organizing individual campaigns, including against the Shia, as you can see here, but also against Ahmad. In fact, if we look at the way that they kind of essentially spread their message within society, I'd argue there's kind of three different pillars that we can talk about. Now, the first one of these is religiously oriented. This includes Tarbiyah Ceramah, specifically Islamic learning, which is a key part. Now, complement this with the social orientation as well. They're involved in welfare, learning working with bodies, police, public providers, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We've seen that in COVID as well. They've provided massive relief as well as with disasters. Palu and that shit. Even with the Rohingya, they start to factor into the and you also see a conflict in political, which includes application of certain Sharia-based laws and application of restrictions based for certain groups, especially the Shia and Ahmadi communities. But within all of these aspects, I'd argue one of their principal kind of defining features is the fact that they like to express themselves as the format of Bangladesh. So there's a very much there is a kind of stress on creating kind of culture or cadence within the kind of view. And to date, I'd argue that there's about 2,000 numbers are my research. And this is what kind of defines them as somewhat different from other Salafi organizations around. Whereas most Salafi organizations don't necessarily have a national structure with a leadership. What Tanzania does, but not only that, they have a Tarbiyah, an active, very organized Islamic training program for their this usually consists of 15 students led by one guy. There are specific principles as well. They find ties to self-interest, knowledgeable, working skills in Islamic society, and becoming professional, which are always kind of at the forefront of the way that they learn. Now, the way that they recruit individuals is quite diverse. So one of the ways is it's usually through university campus, this is one way that it is doing kind of what they call and then slowly kind of make their way or can be conciliated. Now, I should stress that when we talk about the creation of creating individuals that are knowledgeable about it, here to kind of the core tenets of Islam as well. They can memorize the Quran and hospital as well. However, when you look at that curriculum as well, level, you can also see that there are social political learnings going on here too. So if we look at their actual kind of political subjects that cover, we can see this in level 1, where they talk about problem statements around needs or around education. Level 2, where they talk about diversity or ideas, as well as kind of more broad aspects about history. Level 4, which then talks about the struggle of Muslims in Indonesia, far more specific. Before then, finally kind of going to orientation of what learning itself within society, and the kind of contemporary Islamic socialization within Indonesia itself. So what can they learn from other organizations? Now, all of this kind of factors into the way that kind of cadres themselves kind of perceive the role of themselves and what Islamia and Islam more broadly within the national kind of narrative of going on. And in fact, when we ran a survey of different kind of Islamic activists within Makassar, which included, it was a qualitative survey of around 65 individuals from different Islamic organizations. What was notable when it came to the question of Islamia is that their opinions on the role of Islamic State were far more pronounced and far clearer than any other group of for the most part, they were fairly consistent about 3/4 of the individuals reflecting on the needs that Islam plays a role not only in society, but in the way that politicians guide themselves in the way that are regulated. So we can see that these kind of like these ideas and psychology start to disseminate themselves through the system of categorization. But how does this kind of map on to society in general? And I think this is where kind of like the mapping out what's going on in the background is quite interesting part of our research. Because what necessarily happens when we talk to other organizations about Makassar is that most were quite complimentary, like social outreach, regardless of whether it's Sama or Ahmadiyya, so forth. But the ones that we constantly kind of being raised to say, yes, but they've taken over our market. And then you ask, so where is it? And you get a vague description of where it might be, so forth and so on. So trying to kind of meet on the bones of what was actually meant, together with kind of colleagues that were running the solution, we decided to map out what was going on that one has on the itself. So what we did is we identified certain mosques across the business where the organization is active, and then we picked out 10 mosques in 5 districts in the city that were generally represented with different kinds of socioeconomic backgrounds according to the districts. So this included kind of residents in more industrial areas, houses and support areas in kind of the business district, kind of Bukan, as well as more kind of traditional agricultural areas, such as Mangala, which are also areas where you see more kind of housing complexes, so we tried to get this kind of diversity there. And what this kind of brought up was essentially a diversity in mosques, right? So I'll give you 2 examples of some of the mosques. So the first mosque, which we call GO2, was founded and built in 1982 next to the port by easy industry capital Indonesia. Now, it was a fairly kind of run. Or kind of the Quranic classes for kids. Now they held these babies, about 8 to 12 kids in the local area, and they proved quite popular. They discovered what we've seen in otherwise quite kind of industrial area that had a lot of life. Now another mosque here, which is called Mosque N1, It was established in 1963 to land that was donated to Waka to local residents. It was registered to the city, but it was administered by a local Yayasan foundation. Now, despite the mosque's age, it was very clean, it was very modern, it had been renovated at the time, and it was generally affiliated and used by Muhammadiyah, Jamaat Tabligh, and Wahid Lamia. Now, Wahid Lamia didn't control this mosque, they sat on the mosque board, in fact, they held the position of in control of Dafa around the mosque, so they helped organize the activities. So they didn't necessarily mean that they ran the protocol on Friday sermons or kind of controlled it. In fact, they were quite happy for others. But again, what you saw. There were certain challenges. One challenge that was brought up was that Wahid Lamia used too much Bahasa Indonesia. They didn't use Makas Karis. So certain individuals sometimes complained they didn't necessarily always follow what was going on, but they were still having to. So kind of drilling out this, or kind of zooming out a bit from what this kind of means, of the kind of 10 mosques that we saw, we generally saw kind of a typology of engagement, we like to call it. And the outliers on this were on the side, the two extremes. So on one side, one extreme, you had nominal. This is where Wahid Lamia was not really involved. They provided lectures every now and then, and they used the mosque for ground events at the outside. But there was really little kind of consistent representation. Rather, they traded on their own reputation in the city when it came to kind of organizing events. So people were familiar with them, but it was. Now, the second kind of outlier here is where they have full control. Now, this was interesting that we only found in Hukam, the middle class business district, and in these places, what happened is you saw a very structured private classes, albeit as well as kind of for kids. There was a overt reference to the lack of doctrine here, and very explicitly kind of talked about the different aspects of what has been said. However, the majority of mosques, I know 10 mosques is not representative constantly, but it does kind of show an interesting kind of picture. Is what kind of we call sustained engagement. Now, this is where kind of Wahid Lamia was not the only organization involved. They worked with other groups. This includes Nahdlatul Ulama, Muhammadiyah, Jamaat Tabligh, as well as other Salafi. And I generally respect what these groups have to kind of offer to us too. So, for example, when it came to Mali, the celebration of the Prophet's birth. Now, for Wahid Lamia, this is not something that they themselves celebrate, but they recognize that Nahdlatul Ulama does, and the local community. So they will not talk against it. They might not pretend, but they'll let it go on. And you saw this kind of model kind of take place across different kind of parts of the city, including kind of around the harbour, for example, with government officials, mosques, with kind of city administration, as well as in more rural areas and farming areas. But in each one of these kind of aspects, there's really real concern they were kind of teaching children and really kind of engaging with activities. This seems to be a model. They'll do this either becoming kind of members of the kind of administrative board and like running DAPA, or they just do it by being able to present kind of resources. And I think it's kind of like it's kind of systematic in the kind of way that they kind of engage within the city, especially with kind of like younger kind of individuals, but also with kind of providing a service, not necessarily kind of going in there with explicit kind of doctrine, but talking to individuals and trying to connect with what they sort of social needs. And kind of why, if they ask, if you kind of ask, I'd argue that it's because it's essentially non-controversial. It's a good way of kind of engaging with the community, kind of training kind of cadres as well. We want to kind of, they want to kind of give experience and kind of teaching and facilitating about this, and doing it also provided them with a kind of net. They were able to, through these, talk to parents, and if there was a situation, flood, humanitarian aspect, they were able to kind of almost in real time kind of gather information of what was happening there and bring it up to their central kind of office, and therefore be able to distribute kind of the needs kind of there. And perhaps you can kind of see that in this kind of box that we have here, or this kind of map that we kind of mapped out. So that circle there is one of the mosques that they essentially kind of build and control of. And the two kind of squares there are their school and their central mosque. Now they were all kind of connected through the kind of categorization kind of program that we saw. Now what does this mean for the other kind of nominal mosques they were engaged in, these dots here? Well, what we saw when we spoke to the individuals involved in this mosque is that essentially they were all being kind of trained in these different centers, and they were somewhat all kind of connected up. When there was a need somewhere, when there was a need kind of for individuals to be involved somewhere, one level of vacancy came up, they were able to kind of communicate with themselves. We also saw in this one mosque that they were actually kind of involved with high school students, the ability to kind of then send people to their mosques and they usually have more. So I'd argue that this kind of model kind of gave them the ability to talk on the ground with individuals and engage with them through kind of on a very kind of grassroots level. But what does this necessarily mean when we talk about kind of social change and authoritarian talking about? But I think it kind of represents kind of two aspects. Firstly, it shows that when we talk about authoritarian, we have to talk about the spatial mosques and the communities in which individuals live. It's not just about social media, politicians, leaders talking about individuals then kind of choosing to vote. There's a kind of organizational level going on here, through which kind of discussions are kind of occurring and so forth. Now, for an organization like Wahda Islamiyya, the ability to kind of be able to kind of talk about these issues kind of relies on the social capital they're able to build by being active in a whole range of kind of welfare. But the ideas that they have themselves also require a degree of accommodation. You can see that in the way that they kind of didn't necessarily kind of contravene or kind of counteract individuals that celebrate values, for example, or kind of held to different kind of Islamic principles. They didn't want this, they had to accommodate it and accommodate the way that they can talk to them out. In this kind of way, cadres were perhaps very different from how we But I'd also say that when we talk about the cadres themselves being agents of change, which is part of the mantra of Wahda Islamiyya, you can see that they are at the forefront of what's going on. Not only are they transmitters of kind of Islamic principles and doctrine, but also they're on the forefront of talking about change that is necessary, political events that they want to raise, for example, around the office as well. And they're the ones that have to adapt and kind of almost find the language for that within and so forth. And I think this kind of brings up kind of an interesting aspect when we think about majoritarianism too. And that's the fact that there is kind of a methodology of kind of representation further here. When it comes to what we think of majoritarianism, it's not necessarily a coherent political project, but there is a degree of resemblance to the kind of idea that Sunni majority kind of political rights and so forth. But it also kind of like fragmented as it went down. The way that people kind of tie this to their local lives, try to kind of carry it all happen, kind of at the grassroots level. And it's here that I kind of want to kind of conclude in a certain way, like kind of returning back that story of Ahmadiyya and Muslim that I started. Because I've argued the ability of Wahda Islamiyya to access by a kind of holds a very specific kind of message and talk about majoritarianism. And even when we kind of talk about kind of complicated discriminating. Now the fish dinner that aspect was not in any sense a political effect. This was a social gathering and talk to parents about the needs and progress of their children. But it nonetheless became a forum through which certain political aspects were discussed. Now, as I mentioned, it occurred in 2016, at a time when the kind of campaign against the government of Chicago at the time, AHOC, was really kind of gaining momentum. And it just became kind of popular kind of aspect of conversation at the time within this kind of fish dinner. And it was broached mainly by parents at the time. Now, I find it important to say, he never necessarily kind of drove the conversation. He didn't necessarily tell people what to think. But what we kind of noticed was a certain kind of rhetorical divisive question that he would kind of raise that they were talking about. For example, can we allow non-Muslims to respect us? Can they respect us? Or if someone doesn't have the same creed or aqidah, do they really have the right to rule? Now, the parents, kind of including Muslims, didn't necessarily kind of commit to anything. They were non-committal, some murmured in agreement, some didn't. So you have the feeling the argument kind of didn't know, but also guided where the conversation is going. Like, moreover, there was a part of a series of larger interventions that I witnessed during my time at the Open. And we saw similar outreach several years later in 2018, related to the 2019 presidential election, where you saw again kind of the issue kind of framed around the rhetoric that these presidents that respected our lungs. Now, accordingly, kind of what this shows us is the grassroots effort behind majoritarianism and the tactics kind of used broach that stuff. But it also provides us with a kind of window into the more kind of like holistic nature through which these ideas are kind of framed, ignored, questioned, and kind of transformed as well as Catholics were never kind of like forced their views onto them, and often posted their statements in an effort to kind of moderate what they saw it between the extremities in the region of corruption and equality, and sources that they always saw as kind of coming through that space. And also here, it's important to say that the solution was never necessarily kind of Islam as a faith by itself, but rather the solution they always kind of tried to set the intention with reorienting community life, one that revolved around not the culture and not the government body, but around kind of the mosque itself, the center of learning and also a center of community kind of coming together. Now this is reinforced through the use of the mosque, through KBR, as a place to engage with humanitarian activities. And this all aligns with what happened before. And so it became a bit like I would argue that the mosque that we looked at was not only a sense of holy space and learning and contemplation, but also a place for social activism itself, for the community to come together. And so I'd argue that it's through such spaces that we kind of engage personal kind of encounters through which majoritarian positions became discussed and framed during 2016. Now, for sure, kind of every 5 years, majoritarianism in Islam may enter the realm of high politics. As another election approaches, we know see perhaps is on the horizon and stuff. But I'd argue also that the activity of movement through which such majoritarian ideas began to be discussed and shared and debated was spaces and events such as the fish dinner and lifestyle. And I think it's for this reason that White House Armenia and others like are able to turn their social standing to a degree of the social platform, but also when the necessary degree of political platform.
There are a lot of things to discuss, and if we recall last week's session, we get about these things. Then how to wonder like how the Islamic culture, like let's use the culture or the language of history. So we got the answer today because we see very strong presence of Islam in the culture. So I know you have many questions. So just raise your hand if you have questions. Anyone, if you have questions, post your questions and comments, and we will read. Okay, please, anyone? Yes, anyone? Okay. Any comments?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anyone? Other? Second and third. Okay, first, this is, please mention your name and question.
Okay, thank you. So, my name is Ismail. Actually, I'm from Makassar also, and yeah, in Makassar city. And I have gone also in one of the mosque where the Islamia always worship, especially in Kanakukan. Yeah, I'm interested to what's that? The mobile, mobile, who share the knowledge or the teaching of religion. So, I mean, did you find like there is any communication between the Mubalik who are from the Wadi Islamia, Muhammadiyah, and Nahdlatul Ulama? And actually, I'm interested also that you have mentioned that Wahda Islamiyah also work with another group, including the NU and Muhammadiyah. Actually, I'm interested to what kind of work that you do. Yeah, that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Second, because you said English. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Okay. Actually, I am currently working with my research with this community. So I think this is very insightful presentation. But my question, as you stated, that Wahda Islamiyah is associated with several prominent political figures in South Sulawesi. As far as you observe, to some extent, do they also associated with keluarga bangsawan or noble family? Or, yeah, yeah. And then I just want to know how do you observe how the what the Islamic movement try to engage themselves with the other discourse in South Sulawesi.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned a lot of charity work that they do. Very simple question. Where's the money coming from? I mean, I asked that because when people think Salafis in Indonesia, they think Saudi money. You mentioned Saudi training. I just wonder if that's.
Thank you. So we have three questions about the conversation and if there were any changes. Whether they're coming from the country, if they are associated. Yeah, if they're associated with other politics or other people. Yeah, how they deal with the other values. Instead of course, where it comes from.
No, three brilliant questions. On very different aspects. So, first of all, when it comes to compensation, I would say that yes, there is a level of compensation, but it's more implicit in a city like Makassar than what I mean by that is that you not see necessarily reaching out and say that the Martin Chapi or something affiliated with NU with well. Like, there's nothing on those levels. But there is a degree of tension when it comes to compensation, especially between Nahdlatul Ulama what have you. Now, on a local level, it seems that individuals could quite easily get along. But on a more kind of Shaban level, when we're talking about the kind of the actual offices, there was a level of, well, we disagree with each other. Principles, but also outside of nature. Less so with Muhammadiyah. Muhammadiyah seems very split on this one. I think what Islami is the only perception of Muhammadiyah. And how I mean, the reason for this is because they have this history. So yeah, and this probably ties into the second part, which is the cooperation. Again, cooperation on formal bodies, yes. For example, I did an unofficial kind of cooperation level, there seems to still be a fair bit of difference in social welfare. So they do cooperate, but it's often through another vehicle rather than a dual organization. At least from 2007 to 90. The question on kind of a lot about that and fascinating. Mainly because a lot of kind of has an affiliation with the history of kind of south of the region. So I'd argue that at least from what I researched from the members, didn't see much affiliation to the old it was very much kind of accommodated. And that probably ties into the adaptation. So there was certainly local tribe. Being South Korea. In fact, there's a huge amount of pride when it came to White Albania. In fact, they were the first Ormas, or Islamic Ormas that had national reach, came from South Korea rather than Java. So when it came to actual kind of it changes and shifts with it. So, I mean, they would talk about kind of the traditions of the area when they talk about, for example, supporting charity. But it wasn't necessarily on the level that I think you're referring to. So there is something kind of perhaps that re-articulation of what local and customs they sort of the money question, brilliant. But it's worth kind of like reflecting a bit further back into this as well. Because yes, if you look at the kind of the 1990s, even our argument in 2000, not only Saudi Arabia, but kind of Gulf states in general, were a big pot of money into not only one has money, but to Africa in general. Now, it's important to kind of caveat that by the fact that a lot of this facilities is what we like on that one time. But you've seen, I'd argue, in the last 15 years of shift, where, yes, they still have access to foreign money that some organizations are free of. But a lot of their money comes from Indonesia through their own kind of funding programs, their own business. So their own ability to kind of create Sharia resources and shop. In Qatar, for example, when we talk about they have their own water, rather than they have their own range of alcohol. One a few different ways that they can kind of through which money kind of facilitates into the organization. So they're also very good at funding, driving. But I believe in 2016 they held them the third one in Jakarta, and they were set a challenge, make sure none of the money came abroad. And every time you visit the office, you can see almost like kind of a donor kind of drive somewhere else, kind of this target of where they wanted to reach. It kept getting higher and higher, and they were doing that through internal funding. So yes, they have access to money for abroad, but they're not the money.
Okay, we open another discussion. Please. Okay, any more? Okay, we can start with the other people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I noticed when you more, and it's very clear, I think the three of the so active. How do you think? At least from dream of you share. Jadi waktu itu berbeda karena dia karena because how do you take a break in time on the you know I have to offshore. What can make this type of coexistence in this more? Are there other organizations? What other organizations? They cannot. My second, I would like to follow up a question on I agree with you. I think most of the politics now coming more from the guidance financial or the benefit from the progress in the past. So all the what level that they are able to be more independent financial. One actually I attended a very interesting talk in the Rotary, very interesting and he was not alone there. He was the doctor of the movie. I think that is what he himself is not to do the movie. Half day from morning until evening. Someone donated about 3,000 square land on the state. A few mothers just give the ring. In perkawinan, the wedding ring, donated the wedding because we are family, we don't have kids, we want to pray or whatever, but take off this ring, it's very hard. And not to mention so many other commitments, like cash is related. So I try to calculate in one household for at least 1 billion. In that sense. So you can but I don't know how they use thinking of how they use the use of the that's no one. The styling of the style of multi-meditation, that's why you want to get the meditation important. The styling. Sometimes I found that it's not only for idealism, but it's also for motivation. I mean, the amount that they can collect from having the size of the university is fascinating to me. I'm not going to not only talk about the number. And sometimes you might not be surprised to see that this kind of people were so organized with production houses. Of course, these are the sector and they develop some kind of market. That's why now you have the big graph. The main one of the big graph is I mean, how this person, all you look at, the movement, the difference is that it difference in terms of how to the orientation of the people of the work within those who are the elite, who are now playing the political activity in Jakarta and the grassroots and competing with the I mean, what is in their mind in terms of their orientation? What are they looking for? I mean, someone like that in Rahman, I talk to someone who is to him and raise his idea that yes, to do some kind of patungan rumah. This kind of patungan rumah one Muslim can donate 100,000 a year. And you multiply that into the number of Muslims in Indonesia. That's why this idea of $1 is very strong. No? You can have trillions of rupiah, and you can buy a political party or a Sharia friendly presidential candidate. Instead of party, party exploiting the ummah is trying to go to party to but this is not realistic, because that it is just free and sometimes it is really that they want to envision or something else, we learn from the history of this. Masalah Muslim juga dari sampai dengan what do it is not this my personal duty to do jihad, to dakwah, or something else. What is in your mind?
Thank you. I think we have the question.
Yeah.
There are not always two questions, but there are many. But okay, yeah, let's leave.
Yeah, Chris, thank you. I have a lot of questions I could ask about content, but instead I wanted to ask a question about methodology, particularly thinking about the QRCS students who are planning to do the work about how to gain access to communities that may view community suspicious of you as a researcher, or may also be worried about how they're represented in outside communities. So how do you deal with those, particularly in the community in the country? You've been in Joseph before, but going to the new location, starting in the new way. Yeah, so you steps to that.
I'm going to try and answer a couple of questions. I mean, no, it's a fascinating conversation. Especially kind of like when you're mentioning teachers, it reminded me of C12, the power of love that came out. Yeah, but just how these ideas also kind of popular culture. And they make a movie about the emotion about trying to protest government. Yeah. But yeah, the coexistence and kind of differences as you see. Yes. So I'd say Ahmadiyya, as a Muslim, so Ahmadiyya is probably easier for them to accommodate. But they weren't the only one. Rahulullah are included. And I'll say that they were because it's on a very local scene, right? And it's all about sharing resources. And the fact that I have Amir to find National Ulama, kind of whatever. So yeah, I mean that was probably more of an outlier as it's about 3 months the majority. Just Jamaat Tabligh again, that seems to be what people together. It's the last aspect, I mean, it's one now. And actually there's an interesting dynamic here, and that's the connection between what has and Latin. There seems to be more accommodation now, but when what has recently became formats, the writing at the top, and the membership structure, the biggest difference is the Latin. It was like he created an format, it was the wrong way to organize, and very conventional. It kind of died down. But that also kind of goes into a bit of this kind of orientation and change that you kind of mentioned. And I'd argue that over time, because there has been a bit of a lot of aspects of my research. The first time I engaged with One Hot Money was 2011. I went to their 2011 Muktamar. I then went to their 2016 one. You can see that they define themselves in different ways. So in 2011, for example, they kind of refer to them as like an Indonesian nuance Selak, right? So by 2016, they didn't like the word Selak. So they said, no, it's not about Ahlus Sunnah. which is why they can work with that people language. They want to work with that. So they're changing their language in the record. Even though they're behind that, perhaps teaching is pretty similar. Islamic representation. But the reference is how that's framed has changed. But you also, I think you picked up on something really important, and that's the differences in orientation between the leadership and the local grassroots. And that's, the Dyson Bradley is arguably the driving force behind what happened. And very much defined what it is. Massive individual, very organized, very much forefront, very good at articulating. And he does look at the entire lot of people. But we do see the younger generation kind of a balancing act that needs to occur. We saw this with the Ahok. The more the one has one year, individual focused on the process, the more you saw local individuals in the past maybe kind of support the majoritarian aspect, but also get concerned that the focus is shifted. The focus is in the wrong place. Like, the focus has to be in my direction. So the organization really has to balance. And ultimately, not just for that reason, but for others, they reorientate themselves back to social aspects. So yeah, so there is that kind of tension that's going on there. And the almost exploiting the party. Yeah, you can see kind of the seeds of it as well. I mean, for a while, the party itself in 17, 18, what I started talking about second electoral, right? There's a way of kind of snapping at that bridge and kind of finding the best political candidate. But that comes with its own challenge. You need to find a political candidate, right? So, for example, the governor election in South Sulawesi in 2018. What we're thinking of we can choose. So when every candidate approaches we vote, suddenly they're just like, so they were lost. So they the top one to support Nurdin Abdullah because they know it. But the younger generation were looking at other places, others were looking at kind of so they in the end they did there's too much, so they couldn't choose. So yeah, I mean, there's that danger to it as well. Right? Like, yes, we try and find the political allies. Everyone is trying to offer each other. Maybe the political game is too dangerous, taking the wrong person. I don't know. Yeah. So I think it's something different.
That's why it's good to satu lagi. I mean, question is, I mean, the level of acceptance is
But he was really happy about it. And he was very supportive of what I school. So they and because it is linked to
the thing like photography, pertanian.
yeah. So because of those links, they're very connected, which is why the elite level of it know it quite well. But yes, as you mentioned, the younger generation is a bit weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was part of it. The methodology question. It's a good one. And a difficult one. There's a lot of kind of negotiating inside or outside. I think my work with White House Lamia benefited from the fact that I had done work in Jakarta beforehand. So I was quite familiar with some of the aspects that when you worked out, that you have to be a slow process. So yeah, I'll say that forefront, like patience and transparency are the two most important aspects. I'd say we're not going to get information directly. When you start with why ethnography is useful in this regard. But also kind of transparency and being explicit of what we're trying to do. There is a lot of experience the lack of what they feel to be kind of progress research, and especially with what has Lamia, they've been mentioned in there's the two kind of aspects, and then, yeah, patience. The more we speak to, the more they realize that, you know, we can speak to someone else. But there are challenges, and I think that kind of recognizing the inside or outside is really important. And this kind of foreign researcher that is strengthening the mind. Strength, perhaps, is that you are complete outside is the point where you have to use the fact that I'm one Muslim, so that way when you say something, I don't have the knowledge of Islam to tell them that I actually make a degree on this level. So that kind of works in your favor. It can also create challenges. This never happened to me in Jakarta, but it happened in Jakarta, where I was observing an event that I was allowed to observe, which is what I mean, and a stranger decided to because one of them was not. In those situations, it creates a kind of a certain realization of that, wow. But in the end, what happened was after that I left, I didn't want to team. I couldn't actually leave the opportunity because I didn't park on motorbikes at that time. So I had to sit across the street and drink a tea in a cafe or tomorrow. And then suddenly I heard an apology over the loudspeaker, apologizing for being that wrong, being on the right. They told me that I was allowed that. It was very surreal, but yeah, kind of goes to the example perhaps some of these boundary negotiations that we have to negotiate.
Okay, we still have like 20 minutes to open up.
What about the outside on that?
So I originally got to know what not through Makassar, but through the shop. Jakarta is again is perhaps not necessarily representation of the wider network. The reason for that is again it's a university town. So like Makassar, there seems to be an emphasis on not only individual campuses, but if you look at Jakarta's student body, people come from all over Indonesia. Therefore, it's not necessarily that's only Japanese. So there are those caveats. Having said that, whereas in Makassar you saw a lot of local pride being from cultural religion, from the fact that they were nomads there, I kind of mixed into it. You don't necessarily see that or did see that in Jakarta. Like Jakarta has more of an emphasis on the Latin principles I'm looking for. So there are differences for sure. But Jakarta is there is a big concept for. You mentioned unions, which I think is really good. Yeah, what I mean is being involved in unions in Makassar, in Nanda, and in
I think we must be evaluating about commodity, the difference. So probably it's not about the ideology, but commodity, but it's not also the way that might be different in terms of the nationality to be behaving in the sector. So what we do in mind, taking in part of the other related study and essentially there is a there a difference in terms of and also because you mentioned about citizen engagement, can you explain more about the fact that it's a difference, why we are different? Yeah, because you mentioned about the north side, and you differentiate the into types of engagement. So when you get a little over what makes them different. Yes, what makes them different?
So in terms of kind of the lead is their network. Okay. They have access in common within kind of the narrative, kind of the reformation democratic period. What has Lamia been involved actually certainly from the beginning? There are some of the things they also quite a while kind of cover the same area. They don't necessarily believe the same thing, but there is that local kind of aspect to it, which has to do. So they're useful. They are useful. The government but especially in South Korea, you have a network. Also, when local politicians speak about White House run a program, they ran one nationally actually. So they're able to kind of run these kind of things. And I think that I suppose certain politicians, I mean, actually engage with a program like that. Like internally, if we want to run an idea of the way they have to reach on the ground. So publicly, when you think about information marketing and so forth, and the messages that you use when you talk about social media, interestingly, the language they refer to isn't necessarily kind of Islamic. You know, they talk about the country, they talk about nationalism. They use very similar language. They use pretty much the same language, even though as you see from the other nationalists. And it's a way of kind of locating and framing the suffering happening our economic franchise. Exactly how that resonates with individuals from a very graphic, therefore no common observation is that, well, I mean, it does on a certain level kind of resonate to specific ideas why but tying it back into that national language, very nationalistic and revolutionary language. I didn't necessarily see individuals in the language. But it does filter in and gives a framework that people are very prudent. If we talk about Israeli, about Antigua, I mean, everyone has a certain kind of relation. So if you're talking about those levels, then maybe people disagree with you, but you're talking about a common language. I think that's a very easy way to reach out.
Is that also very your implementation process, like about the whole youth process? I think so because we have different positions.
Yeah, and we got that basis, and this is perhaps where the Georgia Makassar divide really does come in. And after personal stories around it. In Makassar, you got a lot more flavor of local pride, being Muslim but not feeling like you were being represented by an organization. But also kind of, you know, that discovery in the university, a long story about how drink at it, then I kind of came across Tanya. In Yogyakarta, I mean, I looked at pride was not there. It's very much a lot of the self-discovery stories. Like I was extensive life. So I was doing loads of stuff. So my life was doing playing guitar, getting out late. And those are the stories that we come from.
You mentioned also about the way we can also be way that and this there
yeah, so I mean, there is definitely to what I've done, especially to a lot of more politically and they're very anti-cheer, they're very the idea. And they are very public. So yeah, there's resistance. But it's quite beautiful and it's quite active in these fields. Not necessarily explicitly to the country, but very active in kind of working with. So it is a competition. One of the things that quite a lot.
How to they integrate a lot of things.
So, I mean, there is still kind of familiarity with this. You look at it, so the fact that there's an idea for very organized, it's very different from what we see in the most way they kind of a bit more decentralized. There's more organization there, but it's also the fact that because of the way that we're social political and field. This is why I'd argue that they're more lean more funding. Seems to be a blend of it, this is one of the reasons that we can be quite lucky. We generally see one of them is very kind of good at and so forth. Then have to do different. So yeah, I mean that's
Okay, we still have like 10 minutes. Okay. Some questions about Anna. Yeah. And also I'm doing research on Chinese movement after the post-revolution, and I was very question. I feel like it's one that happens as an education before the movement. What is the role of the on that as in second life movement? Yeah. That's the question.
It's a great question and probably one I can't really answer. No, I mean, so one of them is very segregated on gender lines. So as a kind of male kind of my access to women is very, very expensive. I didn't. And that was something that I had to accept in a way that I'm really boundaries. Having said that, I think that people are having research.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, I have like some keywords from your presentation. The first is the circular capital. You know what I mean? It's a huge capital in numbers. And the second is the temporary distribution. And the third is about grassroots. It's below the grassroots, very, very root. Yes, you know, 700 institutions. So yeah, I just wondering if there are anything I can learn from your presentation. Regarding my concern about the learning. Thank you very much.
So I think that's two aspects. There's one, a group like what has done here is there's other researchers that are being out there because they do have a women's organization that is extremely active on the ground, running programs, running their own stores, their own organization. So it's there, you know, and that's basically like a single part of it. One would be the men, even if they think that the role is. I'll say the second aspect, when it comes to majoritarianism. I'd argue that the key aspects of how majoritarianism has risen and ideas of morality. So when you look at kind of the development not only of what has here, narrative or narrative of other groups, every time there's an issue when it comes to gender equality, law, habitat, so forth, that's how they start their message, right? The moral fact, you know? And so that with me, for example, we talk about fascist civilization and other 2004 was that they wanted to help you. They held kind of rallies in Poland, which, you know, there's a new gender law that's being raised in the air. Trying to write to parliament, I mean, I attended one of those events, I observed it, and at the end of the Poland, basically just a regular happy hour about the whole thing, they started talking about the gender law. And then they passed around the piece of paper and everyone signed their opposition. And so it's just it's an integral part of this whole movement.
His experience in the field, because I also work on feminism and but I approached it from professional aspect of politics, professional politics. I am looking at the emotional aspect of the movement. So I just want to know if you have this kind of picture in your education in Salafi movement. Do you see any emotional aspect in the microstructure, especially the experts? Do you see like emotions of the play a role in leading them into joining the different movements?
No, for sure. I'd say that like I'm focused here on the border dynamics of how they connect to the community. So there's a whole other aspect and that is the individuals themselves and the way that they want to become part of the community. They want to become their own. I mean, this is part of why they join. But I mean, so there's a lot of learning, a lot of intent. The joining Tarbiyah program takes up a lot of time. To attend Toronto, you have kids every Saturday for 7 hours across town, takes a long time. And they do that because there is religiosity here. They are trying to attend themselves and learn and come back to them. The example I gave, the anecdotal thing about meeting with our hot service. The guy, the mailman picked me up. Once that happened, that became a learning environment for everyone there. Because the question was asked, and what are you? And the answer came back that they are allowed within reason and respected, obviously with life and so forth, and hiding by so that became a learning dynamic, you know, being to that, to kind of give us kind of stronger take matters into his own hands. And really, what was needed was introspection and kind of acknowledgement. So, you know, all of these dynamics are people who are and that's an incredibly important part. I mean, I focus on the social content. That it starts with the
Okay, so this is I have a student.
See my email there. If anyone has any questions, I mean, this is still a work in progress. I took a bit of a forward work and now back. So I would, if you have any recommendations, you want to say to me, please do get in contact. I mean, your opinion on the work is really important to me. But I thank you all for coming today. It's been an honor being here. And just enjoy being back in the future after so thank you.
For the wonderful presentation, and we learned a lot from your research. And of course, there are still more, you know, to explore and discuss about. So we wait for your participation as a speaker to talk about this issue, getting, you know, increasing in our society. Okay, so that's the end of our discussion for today. Is there any information about next week? Please. About next week.
Right. Yes, the word. Oh yeah, we have next week. We have interesting. What's wrong with our theology? So what's wrong? towards contextual epistemology. Yeah. Contextual epistemology, and we have Mr. Sharma from Omnia. So yeah, please come next week and the next week again, and yeah, for the next after this, the following weeks, we we will discuss about divorce. So yeah, please join us also. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again for coming to.
Ini so.
And see you again
Sharma
next
ya.
week, everyone. Bye-bye.
And let me have the program of this.
Oh.
Friends, thank you very much. It's our
Kebalik.
pleasure to have you here. For talk today, and I think it is money. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh iya, punya belum, udah situ.